Okay, so we are on our first section of this book by Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart. And we are going to look at the emotion of feeling stressed and potentially overwhelmed. Let's just start with stressed. Before I read this portion, I want you to kind of think in your mind and in your body, when was the last time you felt stressed? And where might you hold it in your body? So just kind of tuning in, this is somatics. Typically when I feel stressed, it's like here in this shoulder on the right side. And I can feel my shoulders kind of just doing this. So stress kind of is here. And if we think about metaphors in art therapy and somatics, we can think about that word shoulder and the idea that like I'm shouldering, I'm like holding a lot. And so it's putting pressure on this part of my body. So stressed. We feel stressed when we evaluate environmental demand as beyond our ability to cope successfully. This includes elements of unpredictability, uncontrollability, and feeling overloaded. So that's interesting because it's this idea of this demand might be beyond our ability to cope successfully. And so coping successfully also means maintaining our sense of self and well-being while we accomplish whatever goal it is that we are trying to accomplish. Stressful situations cause both physiological, body, and psychological, mind and emotion reactions. However, regardless of how strongly our body responds to stress, increases in heart rate and cortisol, our emotional reaction is more tied to our cognitive assessment of whether we can cope with the situation than how our body is reacting. I found this really interesting because I always assumed that my emotions responded to my body freaking out. But really, my emotions are responding to my thinking assessment of how well I can handle something. Just as getting in and out of the weeds is a part of every waitstaff shift in a restaurant, navigating stressors is a daily part of living. However, daily stress can take a toll. In fact, chronic exposure to stressors can be detrimental to health. High levels of perceived stress have been known to correlate with more rapid aging, decreased immune function, greater inflammatory processes, less sleep, and poorer health behaviors. The first time I had a gray hair was when I was planning my wedding. So this idea of like rapid aging when we are going through a stressful situation. So that's our starting point. I'm going to stop there and then we will come back and make art around the feeling of stress and potentially chronic stress, which is really prevalent in our society. I made some art around this work. What does it feel like to be stressed? Where do we feel it in our body? I used the art therapy technique of body mapping. So I will put this link to a blank body map in the comments below and also in our Facebook group so that you can download it and create your own. You can also just draw like a body, and you can also just draw what it feels like to be stressed. It doesn't have to be in a body, but sometimes the location where we feel it in our body can help us identify a little bit more information about what is stressing us out, and then also, give us just like physical ways that we can release stress in our body. So use the body mapping template and also take a look at mine. I have grinding teeth, which results in some headaches sometimes. I hold my shoulder. I have a tight jaw. I sometimes feel like my hands are inflamed. And I also tend to not work out or have movement because I am more in my head about trying to figure out how to de-stress. But the trick is that if we actually move these things through our body and intellectualize less, we can actually feel less stressed, and then we can have more clarity of mind in planning, thinking, doing. My thought is let's get into our bodies a little bit more and take some time to make some art around what does it feel like to be stressed, and what are the stressors in your life and your environment. And if they are ongoing and they have been happening and you've seen some physical symptoms of the stress for a good amount of time, like 6 months or more, then that could indicate some chronic stress, which also could lead to chronic illness. So let's look at that now while we can, so that we can maybe make some changes in our life, our environment, our habits, our choices, whatever is within our control, so that we don't have to live that way or make matters worse by continuing to be stressed. So this is section 1. You can join my Facebook group. You can find me on YouTube and also at Instagram at Lift Hold Heal, and my website at joannalynwarren.com. I look forward to continuing this journey with Brené Brown's great book, Atlas of the Heart.